Have you ever stopped to think about the hidden architecture of our modern world? You know, the invisible foundations that everything we use today is built on? Well, that's what we're going to dive into.
Seriously, think about it for a second. How does that little blue dot on your phone know exactly where you are? What makes a modern hospital a place of healing and not just a place where sick people gather? Or even something as simple as taking a photo. We just do these things. But where did the really big ideas behind them come from?
Believe it or not, the answers to those questions start taking shape more than 1,000 years ago, during an incredible period of intellectual discovery and innovation known as the Islamic Golden Age. So, where do you even begin? Well, before you can invent the future, you have to collect and understand the past. And that was the first, absolutely crucial step for these scholars, gathering all the world's wisdom in one place. And right at the heart of this massive project was an institution in Baghdad called the House of Wisdom. Now, this was not just some dusty old library. Think of it more like an intellectual powerhouse, a magnet pulling in the greatest minds on the planet.
Inside, scholars were obsessively translating everything they could get their hands on, from Greek philosophy to Persian mathematics and Indian medicine, all into Arabic. But here's the key. They weren't just making copies. They were debating, questioning, and adding their own breakthroughs. They created this incredible foundation of knowledge that, centuries later, would flow into Europe and help kickstart the Renaissance.
Okay, so you've gathered all this knowledge. What's next? Well, you need new tools to make sense of it all, to understand the universe in a new way. And that meant inventing entirely new languages, the languages of math and science. Ever wonder where we get the word algebra? It comes directly from the Arabic al-jabr, from the title of a groundbreaking book by a scholar named Al-Khwarizmi. He's the one who really established algebra as its own field. And here's a great little piece of trivia. The word algorithm? Yeah, that's just a Latin version of his name. It's no exaggeration to say that every time you use a computer or make a secure transaction online or see what AI can do, you are witnessing the legacy of Al-Khwarizmi's work. It is, quite literally, baked into the operating system of the 21st century.
Okay, let's look at another huge shift. For centuries, people, including the ancient Greeks, believed that we see things because our eyes shoot out some kind of invisible light ray. But then a scholar named Ibn al-Haytham came along and proved the exact opposite. We see because light enters our eyes. It seems so obvious to us now, but back then, this was a mind-blowing revelation.
But here's the kicker. The most important thing wasn't what he discovered, but how he discovered it. He didn't just guess. He developed a rigorous system. You create a hypothesis, you design an experiment to test it, and you document everything. Today, we call that the scientific method, and it is the absolute bedrock of all modern science.
And this systematic, evidence-based approach wasn't just for things like optics. It was applied to saving human lives, creating the blueprint for modern medicine. One of the giants in this field was the physician Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna in Europe. He compiled a massive, multi-volume encyclopedia called The Canon of Medicine, which was basically the ultimate collection of all medical knowledge at the time. Just let that number sink in for a second. For over 600 years, 6 centuries, this book was a core medical textbook at universities across Europe. Its influence on how we think about disease, diagnosis, and treatment is just immense. It's almost impossible to overstate. And this innovation wasn't just happening in books. It was built into the very structure of their cities. They created something called Bimaristans, which were, for all intents and purposes, the world's first real hospitals. And what made them so revolutionary is that they were built to treat everybody, no matter how rich or poor you were or what your background was. And get this, they had separate wards to isolate patients with different illnesses. They kept detailed patient records, they had pharmacies right there on site, and they employed licensed, trained doctors and nurses. They were even pioneering early forms of clinical trials and the concept of quarantine. Sound familiar? It should. This is the direct ancestor of the hospital down the street from you. Now, that same spirit of practical, hands-on innovation was also causing an explosion in engineering. This was a time when complex, automated machines started leaping from the pages of imagination into the real world. A brilliant engineer named al-Jazari was right at the center of this. In the 12th century, he wrote this incredible book, which was basically an IKEA manual for building dozens of amazing, intricate machines.
And the stuff he designed is just astounding. We're talking about things like programmable robot musicians, incredibly ornate water clocks,
And maybe most importantly of all, the crankshaft. That one little component, the thing that turns up and down motion into rotary motion, is the basis for pretty much every modern engine, from the one in your car to a leaf blower.
So you see, these weren't just quirky gadgets. The principles of automation and complex mechanics that guys like Al-Jazari were mastering, those were the seeds that would eventually blossom into the fields of modern robotics and mechanical engineering. Okay, so from the tiny, intricate gears of a machine, let's zoom all the way out to our planet and to the stars themselves, because the scholars of this era also completely changed how we saw our place in the universe. Just listen to some of these achievements. Al-Biruni calculated the circumference of the Earth and was accurate to within 1%. 1%. A scholar named Al-Idrisi created some of the most detailed and accurate world maps of his time, and another, Al-Sufi, observed and documented the Andromeda Galaxy, our closest galactic neighbor, almost a millennium before it was officially discovered by European astronomers.
In this is where we come full circle, right back to that GPS in your phone. The super advanced trigonometry and math they developed to map the stars and navigate the seas, those are the very same mathematical principles that allow a network of satellites to tell you exactly where to turn next.
So when you put it all together, you realize this era wasn't just some historical placeholder between the ancient world and the Renaissance. It was a powerful, self-sustaining engine of discovery, a genuine turning point that laid down the scientific and intellectual tracks for the world we all live in today.
So, the next time you use your phone for directions or walk into a modern hospital, maybe take a second. Remember that you're tapping into a legacy that's over 1,000 years in the making. And it kind of makes you wonder, what other hidden histories are all around us, right now, quietly shaping our future? Thanks for joining me.